Thank you. Could councillors please resume their seats? I'm sure somebody's listening to me. Thank you. And could I call Graham French forward? Thank you. Hi, Graham.
Tēnā koutou katoa, Madam Mayor, councillors and the rest of this assembled company. As I was driving in, I was behind a car which had a personalised number plate, Cursed, and I didn't know whether that was a reference to my submission or whether that was in fact the plight of the City Council or the city. So having said that, the focus of my submission was really just on privatisation issues, and I had 6 reasons why the council shouldn't resort to asset sales, and I'm going to skip through some of those very quickly and just focus on a few points which I thought might be of interest to the council. So the first point I made was no to big ticket items, and there would be considerable savings by sort of abandoning those, and also looking at alternatives like raising capital through bonds, development bonds or something like that. But when I was doing the research for my submission, I came across something on an English website about the English Cooperative Council's Innovation Network, and I raised this as a possibility that the council might explore, not looking at amalgamation and producing a mega city in the way that's happened in Auckland and could happen in Wellington, but looking at the possible cost savings of more collaborative effort with other local authorities, with more involvement of the people. So I might actually read this here because this, the people sitting behind me won't know what I'm talking about. And one of the characteristics of this network seemed to be the idea of better procurement for social gain. So it talked of a collaboration between local authorities committed to finding better ways of working for and with local people for the benefit of their local community. And at this point, I would speak strongly in favour of the People's Republic of Christchurch. So better ways of working for and with local people for the benefit of the local community, a new paradigm where traditional models of top-down governance, which we've seen taken to an extreme really by Minister Brownlee and the government and the whole earthquake recovery process. Service delivery give way to more local leadership, genuine cooperation, and a new approach built on the founding traditions of the cooperative movement, collective action, cooperation, empowerment and enterprise. And then I've got a quote from an American who lectures in at the DePaul University. Privatisation serves people with money, whereas the public sector serves everyone. When private profit is the main driver, service quality and workforce conditions are likely to decline. At the same time, money moves to the top so that CEOs would be remunerated at obscene levels. Paul Buckhart, whom I quoted earlier, actually teaches economic inequality at DePaul University. He argues that the private sector has an incentive to fail or no incentive at all, and describes how the American structural foundation has deteriorated with grids and pipelines neglected by monopolistic industries that cut costs rather than provide maintenance. And when you think of what happened when the railways were privatised in New Zealand, we saw that scenario played out, and that's happened even more in Britain. Reduced maintenance of infrastructure, to continue with this example, is likely to have health and safety implications, like, for example, contamination of water supply at times of heavy flooding, etc. Imagine the situation if the port company was in foreign ownership and the owner decided that Lyttelton was uneconomic, or decided to run down the port to focus on business elsewhere. The port is a significant part of the regional economy, providing or generating employment for local people, which could be lost overnight if another owner had no loyalty to the city and province. Surely it makes better economic sense to keep profitable businesses like the airport and Lyttelton Port Company and earn income from them to reinvest in better local services rather than contribute to shareholder profits, most of which would be likely to move offshore. The practice of English Conservative councils of selling off profitable operations and retaining only necessary but loss-making functions seems to be a no-brainer. And to go back to Paul Buckheit, whom I quoted earlier, public beats private in almost every way. Only the hype of the free market media keeps much of America believing that winner takes all is preferable to working together as a community. I also make the point that local ownership should mean greater responsiveness to local needs, and council ownership means greater accountability to the community through local elections. Imagine the situation at the time of the earthquakes if the council had contracted out its call centre operation to, say, India, and callers had no direct communication with people with local knowledge. And private does not necessarily mean better, and I appended to my submission a number of references to disasters, privatisation disasters in Britain. I actually didn't bring that with me, but you're welcome to follow that through if you want to. Some councils in Britain have, at considerable cost, had to bring services back in-house because private companies have failed to deliver, and I specified two here. Somerset County Council ended up in expensive litigation when they contracted to South West One, which was an IBM company, to provide back office functions and services. The contract went sour, and in 2012 the council was sued. The council ended up with a legal bill of £2.6 million and overall costs of £5 million. And Swansea Council's full IT contract would have cost the council £40 million more than its IT budget over a 10-year period. So long-term contracts awarded on loss-leading bids are often followed by huge cost increases where council have been helpless to do anything about. Which councils have been helpless to do anything about, particularly where equipment and plant have been sold off. Then there are the problems for the community if the alternative owner or supplier of services goes into liquidation. Have I finished my 5 minutes?
Yes, Graham.
Righto.
Yeah, but I mean, you've made your point and
yes.
Clarified some of the elements of your submission, so thank you very, very much.
Not at all.
Okay, thank you. Derek Keane.